Let's go from Columbia University chaos to maybe Israeli Hamas chaos. Joining me now is Florida Congressman Brian Mast and Congressman Kevin Hern of Oklahoma. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Brian Mast, let me begin with you. The recent Harvard-Harris poll, it's a very good poll. 4 out of 5 Americans support Israel in the war against Hamas. And, Brian, here's the key. 72%, so almost three-quarters, back the IDF, Israel IDF operation in Rafah to clean out Hamas. Now, with those numbers in mind, while Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, is over in the Middle East trying to negotiate a ceasefire, a long ceasefire that would stop Israel from going into Rafah and cleaning up Hamas once and for all. What do you make of that, Brian Mast?
Look, we know the administration does not want Israel to go into Rafah. They see a great deal of danger of them going in and finishing the job. And I think the important question is, why do they feel there's a danger with Israel going to do that? And I'm going to tell you something that I very much fear. I fear that this becomes a moment like World War II soldiers going into Auschwitz at the end of the war, and they have to come out and tell the world there's nobody left alive. They killed everybody. I think the administration very much fears that. And then, of course, there's all of the politics that are a part of this domestically, that the administration, it's just not convenient for them, for Israel to be successful.
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu today put out a statement saying he is going in to South Gaza, and he's going into Rafah, and they're going to destroy Hamas. Mr. Hurt, let me ask you this. All these Middle East countries, this is a story that doesn't get told. They want Israel to clean up and destroy Hamas. In fact, a lot of them would like Israel to destroy Iran. I'm just going to read you. These are the Abraham Accords countries: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, and maybe I left one out. They all want Israel to clean out Hamas. And we have a Secretary of State and a president that does not want Israel to clean out Hamas. I just do not understand the Middle East politics. I don't understand what the Bidens think they're getting into. I don't understand what Blinken thinks he's doing in the Middle East right now.
Well, certainly when you see Russia and you see Iran, you see China, they're the leaders in what's going on in the Middle East. And they look, the rest of the world's looking for strong leadership. And going all the way back to August of 21, what the world saw with Joe Biden was weak leadership. And everything is emanated from there. One of our friends, General Jack Keane, has said, is anybody that thinks Iran is not in the center of all of the turmoil going on throughout the Middle East and in that part of the world that's being funded by China and their purchasing of the oil from Iran to keep their machine going is sadly mistaken. And now what you have is Joe Biden and his administration basically condemning the Israeli front, calling on war crimes for 4 of the divisions that have been trying to go back and protect their country. We've not seen anything like this since the 1930s. And what we need to have happen right now is the president needs to stand firm with Netanyahu. He needs to help him eradicate Hamas and bring back peace in the Middle East and peace in Israel, so that they know that they can count on us to be with them every step of the way.
I just think, though, Brian Mast, they don't want they really don't want an Israeli victory. They want a tie between Israel and Hamas. That's what their policy is. It's kind of like the Ukraine. They want a tie there. But the point I'm making is, Secretary of State is that he wants a long ceasefire. That will not get rid of Hamas once and for all. That's the reason I cited the poll. I know polls are polls, but the fact is it's a good poll. But 3/4 of Americans want Israel to get rid of Hamas. Most of the countries in the Middle East want Israel to get rid of Hamas. Why is the Biden administration opposing this?
I think simply, you could look at that again, this question. College campuses don't, or at least the college campuses that they're unfortunately paying attention to. This is absolutely political. These are political calculations that are layering upon what should be national security objectives but they're not. They're looking the political security objectives, and that's how they get to the conclusions that they're getting to. And this is the Biden history from day one and the Afghanistan withdrawal to the southern border.
In record time, nobody's ever gone faster. It's never happened. Nobody's ever got the numbers that we got. And I'm sitting in a courthouse all day long listening to this stuff.
Thank you to the two Congressmen, Brian Mast and Kevin Hern. We've just shifted over to former President Trump, who was speaking after today's trial. Take a listen, please.
It should have never been brought. That's showing loud and clear. But you have a judge who's totally conflicted, totally, absolutely conflicted, that he's rushing this case through. I'll tell you what, somebody just told me they'd never sat for such a long period of time in a courthouse before. It's ridiculous. I'm supposed to be in Georgia. I'm supposed to be in New Hampshire. I'm supposed to be in Ohio and lots of other places. And they have me sitting here for a Biden trial. It's a Biden trial. And I never saw so many prosecutors. They're all sitting in the room over nothing, over absolutely nothing. There's no crime. There's no anything here. And that's what these legal scholars say. How can you bring a case like this? Bragg didn't want to bring it. Bragg is the guy bringing it, and he didn't want to bring it. Went to every agency just about in law enforcement. They all turned it down as a joke. And I'm sitting here because that's exactly what they want. They don't want me on the campaign trail. But it's a real disgrace. And the whole world is watching. It's a disgrace to New York. And just like Engoron is a disgrace to New York, we won that case because we won it on statute of limitations. And he turned down the appellate division. That's another case. It's all the same. He turned down the appellate division's decision. They gave a decision that gave me mostly a win. Just about the whole thing was a win. And he turned it down. He's a corrupt judge. And this judge is terrible. And Kaplan is terrible. Gave a person, I have no idea who she is, $91 million. This is a corrupt system we're in. And I think the people are understanding it. If you look at the polls, the people of our country are understanding it. Thank you very much.
Go right to the congressman.
You can figure that one out.
All right, we're going to go right back to our two distinguished congressmen, Brian Mast of Florida and Kevin Hern of Oklahoma. I hope they're still there. Thank you, gentlemen. You're very patient. I appreciate it. Mr. Hern, Kevin Hern, they have, through this silly trial, with no ends, no objectives, no nothing. They're holding up Mr. Trump, as he just said. They are stopping him from campaigning. Even with that, he's ahead in the polls, and including the swing states. But this is election interference. I think it comes straight from the White House. What's your thought on this, sir?
Well, I think it's no question that's what's going on. I think you look at election obstruction. When you look at the Biden DOJ supporting this through the Manhattan DA, what they're doing to the president of the United States, sitting there, he's right. And to have be fined for violating a so-called gag order, it's nothing pertaining to the trial. It's about what they're saying about him politically, and to be able, you can't even defend yourself. It's much like what we're saying right now. This issue of First Amendment is under complete assault in America today, and it's at the very peak of this is President Joe Biden that's allowing all this to happen and actually facilitating it, in my opinion, and many others, what's going on with President Trump.
Brian Mast, on that point that Kevin Hern just mentioned, I'm a cynic because I notice, as so many others have, the former number 3 guy in the Justice Department, his name's Calandra, I believe, he comes in to run this trial. He was the number 3 guy in the Justice Department. Now he comes in as an assistant DA in order to run the trial because everybody knows Alvin Bragg doesn't know anything about the law and has been a terrible DA. So this guy's doing it. What I'm getting at, Brian, is I think this is directed by the White House counsel's office, and by the president himself. That's the cynic in me. Do you have a thought on it, sir?
I don't think you're wrongly cynical. I think there's one poisonous tree out there. It's the Democrat Party. Each one of these trials is fruit off of that same poisonous tree, in the same way that in the last election cycle, they used every social media outlet that they could to bury things, to hide things. Now they're taking every outlet and saying, hey, we can come up with these witch hunt trials, and we could put these on the news. We can bleed him off of the campaign trail, or we can bleed him from financial resources with all of these trials. But one way or another, they're going to bleed him, and they're accomplishing that.
And, Kevin Hern, they want to do the same thing with, the so-called special prosecutors, guy Jack Smith. They want to do the same thing. They want to tie Trump up in court. After this trial, they'd love to tie him up on the J6 trial or the documents trial in Florida, et cetera, et cetera. Keep him off the campaign trail because he's so darn good on the campaign trail. The odd thing is, so far in the polls, he's done great. So people are watching and listening to what he says. But this is the worst election interference in our history, is it not?
It is, and certainly when you see what President Biden is looking at, he has got to figure out how to keep President Trump, as you said, off the campaign trail. But what he's found out is that President Trump will outwork him every single day, every minute of the day, going every free moment he has away from the courtroom. He's going around the country, especially in those 7 critical states. But when you look at Joe Biden and his border policy, his economic policy, his energy policy, now his foreign policy, he's failing in every single one of those. And the American people are saying, we need a strong leader. We know we're going to get with President Trump. Let's get him back in office.
Yes, sir. Well put. Thank you, gentlemen. Kevin Hern, Oklahoma, Brian Mast, Florida. We appreciate your patience, and thanks for coming back on the show. All right, folks, switching gears.